Hello friends, welcome to Edwiki Learning channel. Please do subscribe to get more updates on the DevOps concepts. This video is part of the full course AWS DevOps Practitioner training. Please do check the description below to get the link for the complete full course. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the session. And I think what we are doing is we are trying to deploy a highly available web application, correct? I'm just introducing one more new terminology, right? Highly available. What does it mean, guys? All right. Previously, I deployed the web server. My website was running, but there was a single point of failure, right? Now, with the introduction of load balancer, right, we are adding the high availability to our application is mean that if something happened to the EC2 instance or maybe at a zone level, right, still the web application will not be down because the application will be serving from a one other EC2 instance running in a different zone probably, right? That's how we are doing the high availability, and also it helps us to do the load balancing as well, so that the whole load will not go into a single server, rather it will be in a multiple servers, right? So whenever we are using the load balancing concept and keeping the multiple servers to serve the web application, right, it's your responsibility to ensure that right, it's your responsibility to ensure that all the servers right are responsible to serve the web pages are configured with the identical configuration, correct? Then only the request may come to uh, any server, right? So pretty much give me a second. Yeah, the request may come to any server, right? The response will be the same for all the things, right? That's how it works. Cool. So let me go ahead and do the setup one more time, guys. And today it will be a little more deep dive of doing the enhancement for our applications, right? So I just need the VPC and the VPC related components to get started with, right? So all the VPC components are already there except NAT gateway, because NAT gateway I have deleted just to save the billing, guys. So let me create a NAT gateway now again. Hope you guys are following me. So I think let me deploy the NAT gateway in the public subnet, right? So I can take the existing Elastic API as well if there is one. Create a NAT gateway. Now let me go back to the route table one more time, to the private route table, and you see that the NAT gateway that was there before, that got deleted, right? And it is showing a black hole. So let me edit the routes, and I will add my new NAT gateway, right?
We are unable to see your screen, sir.
So ideally that should not happen, but yeah, I think this is the first time that I get into that state. Thanks for acknowledgement, right? So anyway, this is the quick recap that what we have done so far, right? So I'm just fixing my NAT gateway, like the yesterday's NAT gateway got deleted, so I just created a new NAT gateway, and I'm just updating my route table with the new NAT gateway. Are we good with this, guys? Right. So now my VPC components are ready. Correct. Now let me go ahead and start creating the web servers. So you should be able to see my screen as well now, right? And we'll get into the concept. Thank you. Thanks for the acknowledgement. So now I really wanted to create a EC2 instance, guys. And how many of you feel bored creating EC2 instance every time going to the launch instances tab and filling up all these options, guys? Correct. Maybe it was difficult at day one, but later on, as and when you start creating the EC2 instances, right, each time we need to go and start filling up the configuration, right? Of course, it's really right. We don't need to, like, most of the times when I'm creating the EC2 instances, right, the configuration is almost same, correct? Maybe your AMI is the same, your instance type is same, your key pair is same, maybe your network setting also same, correct? So I mean to say, most of the times your configuration is almost the same to create a EC2 instance. Then rather you creating the instance every time and choosing the configuration options from this form, why don't I create a launch template which is storing all this configuration handy, and in one single click probably I can go and create an instance with whatever the predefined or pre-stored configuration details. You got me what I'm trying to? So now I really don't want to create a EC2 instance in this launch instance form. I will just click on cancel, right? Rather, in the left side navigation, I will go to the launch template tab here, okay? And let me remove the existing one. I don't want this existing one. I'm just doing the cleanup. Well, so I'll go to the launch template tab, and here let me click on create a launch template. Okay, so I'm just giving the launch template. Let's say I wanted to store my web server EC2 instance configuration in this launch template. I'll say this is the web server template. Any name would be fine, right? And just scroll down. This is just a description that you need to fill up there. Just scroll down, and the tags are all optional, right? And let me come down. You see here, now we need to choose the configuration options, how you are expecting the EC2 instance has to be created. Let's say I wanted to use the Amazon machine image. Just go ahead and choose the Amazon Linux AMI, whichever the AMI that you are preferring to use for your EC2, right? Just go and choose your AMI from the list, and choose the instance type from the list. And I really wanted to go with the T2.micro EC2 instance type from the drop down, right? And now let me choose the key pair from the drop down. I'll just use my DPT11 key pair. I'm not creating the EC2 instance, guys. I'm creating what? I'm creating a launch template, and I'm defining the configuration how I would like to have, so that all this configuration will be created as a template. Then you can create a instances later, right? So simple. So in the networking settings, let's say I wanted to deploy it into the private subnet. Okay, let me choose the subnet from the drop down. Let's say I want to use a private subnet there. Correct. Now let's say come down. I wanted to use the existing security group, right? Just come down, and this is advanced network setting configuration, which we don't need to worry at this time. Now this is the default root volumes. Let it be the default only. Just come to the advanced details here, and this is where you can even tell that which IAM role that I would like to attach to this EC2 instance. Choose the IAM role from the drop down, right? And just come down. Let it be all other defaults for now, right? So just come down, and that's it. Now you create a launch template, so that the tomorrow when you wanted to create a EC2 server, right? You don't need to fill up all these options, guys. Hope you are following me, right? So all these are already prepared and stored as a template. You just use this template, and it will autofill all the options for you. You don't need to worry about choosing them one by one, right? Now the thing is, once the EC2 instance is created, right, do you think the instance is fully ready to use as a web server, or to serve the web application that you would like to, guys? Let's say in this case, I am using the Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, right? So the question for you now, to answer it in the chat window. If I use this Amazon Linux 2023 AMI that is provided by the Amazon, do you think the moment when the server is created, it is fully ready to serve your web application? Not really, right? It will not come up with your own customizations. It is just a plain default operating system. If you are expecting it to be for your business specific use case, once the server is launched, it's your responsibility to go and install the required packages, configure it, and make sure that your code is deployed correct. That is where you need to run some specific commands, right? So help me guys, what commands that you usually run to make your system configurable as a web server to make it operational, at least to the scope of the web server, right? So usually you run the command called yum install httpd-y. Maybe you start the services by running systemctl start httpd. Then you ensure that the required code, right, is actually deployed it into where www html location, maybe index.html. This is the file. This is the location where we need to put your, the website related deployment. And of course, if you are expecting your application has to be started automatically each time when the system gets rebooted, yes, we do enable them. Maybe in this file we need to have some code. For now, let me put some code. So echo, this is my website. So this is possible guys. I don't know if I have covered this. The echo is just a command which will be printing this text. So this text, rather me printing, I wanted to send this text to this particular file using this redirection operator. So if you run this command, it actually put this particular text into this particular file. The file also will be get created automatically, and this particular text will be inside this file. That's a simple echo command. Okay, so at least to get started with, right? So here, when I'm configuring the web server, I'm just following these few simple steps. But it could be these 4 commands, or it could be 10 commands, or it could be 100 commands. You know what I'm trying to? That means whenever the instance is created, for what purpose you created a server, what is the commands that you need to run, how you are planning to use the command for your business. Based on that, you may be having some checklist of commands, correct? Need to run all those checklist commands to make it configurable and start using this, correct? Right? And of course, yes, rather using the VI, I'm just using the echo here, right? So because VI is always a interactive mode, right? So here I'm trying to make it a non-interactive mode kind of. So help me guys, like do I need to run all of these each time when the server gets created? Is there any other workaround so that I don't need to run these commands every time? If I create a EC2 server, I should ensure that my Apache HTTP web server is installed and it is fully ready. Correct. So at least the first 3 options, whatever you see, right? All these 3 are can be put into the golden AMI. Like you create one EC2 instance and you install the required softwares there. You make it free configurable. You take the golden AMI out of it, then use the golden AMI. Then you start creating the new EC2 instance. As part of the golden AMI, all the required all the required software stack will be fully loaded, right? You don't need to log in and install these packages each and every time, correct? Possible. But the thing is, whenever you are trying to create a golden AMI, right, it's always a best idea to keep only the softwares that you wanted to install in the golden AMI, not a code actually. You got me? I'm just trying to make this whole 4 lines it into 2 different sections, right? The first 3 lines are related to the installing the software and starting the software, which is pretty much common, right? Correct. But do you think the code that you are expecting to be available in the var www html, do you think this code is always be the same, guys? Not really, right? the code maybe keep on changing sometimes. Whenever you want to update a website, definitely the code has to be modified. Some files will be modified. So that means, right, there will be a static content, there will be a dynamic content that would be used by your business use cases, correct? If you feel that it is a static content, like the software installations, which will not be changing often, right? You keep them part of your golden AMI. Whichever you feel that this is kind of a dynamic content which has to be loaded or changing, right, each time, that you don't keep it in the golden AMI. But I don't want to run a commands manually once the server is fully ready to copy the code, all of this. So what can be done here is, so whichever the commands that you feel has to be manually executed on the server, right, even after you have created a server from the golden AMI, because some of the dynamic content I cannot keep part of my golden AMI, right? So all those commands we can put in the user data section. If you come to the launch template concept here, and if you do little scroll down, right? So somewhere you can see the concept of user data. User data is the bootstrap script that the AWS has provided to ensure that the script that you have given in the user data, all those script in the sense what? The series of commands, right? So all these series of commands will be get executed automatically once the server gets launched. Just to simply put, once the server is created, which commands that you are planning to run by logging into the server as a root, all those commands you keep it in the user data so that the AWS will take care of running these one by one for you automatically. That way, you don't need to log in and you don't need to run the command space. AWS will do it for you automatically. That is what is the user data. So now to repeat the statement again. So some of the stuff, yes, we can keep it in the golden AMI, but whichever you cannot make it as a static in the golden AMI, which you wanted to make it a dynamic by running the commands once the server is launched, then you keep all of them in the user data section and AWS will run them each time the server gets launched. So here I'm including my minstall command as well because I'm not using the golden AMI, right? I'm just using the Amazon provided AMI. So I'm installing the package as well. But it's always best practice to keep the package installations part of golden AMI and keep the dynamically loaded configurations in the user data section. What will be the downside, guys? Let's say even installing the packages also, if I keep it in the user data, what will be the downside? Let's say installing the package, if I don't keep it in the golden AMI, if I keep it in the user data, but still the command will be get executed, the package also will be installed, right? But the thing is, the total amount of time that it takes to make your server is fully ready will be high, correct? Because once the server is launched, then the AWS will start installing or running these commands. If you are installing the packages now, it takes a lot of time to install, make it configurable, all these things, right? Because it has to download the packages, install it, configure it. So to minimize the total time that it takes to boot the EC2 server, to make it EC2 server ready, it's better to keep these things in the golden AMI. Then only whichever you feel right has to be as part of the launch process, just keep them so that the time that it takes to bring the server ready state will be very less. Good. Now one other thing here is, yes, these are the commands that I wanted to run for now. Sorry, right? Good. But usually the commands will be get executed on the bash shell, right? Correct. So let's say if you logged into the EC2 server, then you know that you get a bash shell, you run the commands. But when you are telling to AWS that, hey, can you run these commands automatically for me? How would it know that the command should run using which shell? Correct. So that is where we need to keep these in a shebang notation. We already talked about this, right? So like I need to tell that, right? The below commands should be get executed using the bash shell. That's what you represent here using the shebang notation. That's it. Now my user data is ready. So now here I'm taking some example commands here, but understand like this. Tomorrow, based on the business use case, business requirement, whatever you feel to be running on the server, right, to make it ready for your business, keep everything in the user data. Here I'm using simple echo command just to show what is user data, but it always varies based on the business needs, guys. All right. Now let me go ahead and create a launch template. Right. So the AWS will ensure that the commands that you have given in the user data section will be get executed as a root process. I meant to say as a root privilege, because the ordinary user like EC2 hyphen user will not have an access to run all the commands, right? Yeah. So now I can see my launch template is ready, right? So all what I need to do is choose the launch template that you wanted to, go to actions. Now launch instance from the template. If you click on this launch instance from the template, right, you see that my UI is slow, right? So just scroll down. So it is automatically filled all the details for you guys. We don't need to do any more changes here. Right? So everything is already filled. So I just need to click on launch instance. That's it. Isn't it easy, guys? So that next time onwards, when you are creating the server, right, we don't need to worry about filling any of the configuration. You see now the instance is deployed. This instance will now fully ready with whatever the specifications that we have given in the user data as well. So if I need to run or deploy one more server, right, just go to the launch template and select the launch template and just go and launch the server. That's how easy it is now. I can just create a one more server from the same launch template. So how many different web servers that you are maintaining, you try to keep the specific launch template based on the requirement, then start creating the the identical servers whenever there is a need, guys. Good. Well, so now the server is deployed, right? And I think this is good. If I just click on this instance ID, right? So I'm just worrying about the monitoring tab at this time. Okay. So the CPU is still not there. Let me see, guys, if I can connect to the server. Yes, this is working. That's great. This is a private server, right? That's what I was worrying about it. Yesterday it was not working right from session manager. Now it does not have any public IP. It has a private IP only. That's fine. You see that I logged into the server from the session manager. Now let me verify the things, guys. Systemctl status HTTPD. You see that the web server is already deployed as part of the launch template. I'm going to say user data. Let me go to where www html. I'm just verifying the things whether it is really done properly or not. You see that I got my index.html file. It has some content, right? If for any reason, if you are not giving the user data script properly, then obviously AWS will fail to run the commands, right? let's say you given the bad command in the user data, you given the bad script in the user data, something is typo mistake, right? If it is not able to run the commands, your system will not be configured properly, correct? So in order to do the troubleshooting, you always go to var log location. In the var log location, right, there is a file called cloud init-output.log. So this file will have the details about your user data script. So just cat this particular file. It will tell you, you see this, if you cat this command, this file, you see here guys, start from here, it is actually trying to install the HTTP package, right? Then it is actually enabling the service, and of course like copying the file, echo and all not showing, right? That's okay. So basically, if at all there is an issue with the user data script that you have provided, then you come to this log file and see what is the problem. If something is a really problem, you go back to the launch template and modify the user data again, a launch instance again. That's the way to troubleshoot the user data issues, guys. Good. Now, so how do we access the website, guys? In order to access the website, we need to go via the load balancer, right? Correct. That's okay for now. We already familiar how to use the load balancer to access the website by keeping this server in the target group, all these things. Let me go into a different style of discussions today. Even if you wanted to verify it from the command line to ensure that the website is working or not, we can just use a curl command as well, right? Now I can confirm that the website is working actually. Good. So the time to talk about few new things today, guys. Right? The thing is, right, whenever the client is accessing the website by browsing it from their browser, right, definitely this website is loading from your EC2 server, correct? So the request is always coming via the route 53. It will be get resoluted to your server, correct? Of course, we are not using the EC2 IP address directly, right? So we will be using the load balancer concept, correct? But what is that I'm trying to do here is, whenever the number of users are keep on increasing, whoever is trying to access my website, right, the load will be more on your EC2 server, correct? Getting my guys? I think let me go back to here again. Yeah. So you see this. So when the number of users who are accessing my website are keep on increasing, all the requests are coming to your EC2 server, right? The CPU and the memory utilization will go high to handle the number of users. Usually a CPU and memory capacity, whatever is allocated to your EC2 server, will be having some limitations, how many number of users that it can serve. As an example, let's say if your server is deployed with one processor, it may handle 100 users at a time. If it is deployed with two processors, it may handle 200 users at a time. Got me? That means the amount of processor and memory capacity that you have given for your EC2 server, right, will take care of, right, how many users that it can support. Sometimes if more number of users are accessing the website, and if your server is deployed with a less amount of compute, obviously your server will get busy, right? The CPU and memory utilization will go 100%. If the CPU and memory utilization going to the 100%, do you think your website will work as expected, guys? This is all brainstorming. I'm talking about the problem first, then I'll jump on to the solutioning concept, right? So we already familiar that if anything has to happen on the server, definitely the request should go to RAM, and then it has to schedule for CPU. That means if anything has to happen, definitely the processor and memory is being consumed. So if anyone is accessing my website, the request will come to the server, right? Definitely the processor and memory is being consumed there to serve the request, right, on port number 80. So now I'm trying to, right, do the scaling. Okay, that means, hey, whenever there are more number of users are trying to access the website, if the current compute capacity in the current running server is not enough to handle the load, if the utilization is going more than 80, 90, touching 100%, then I need to have a load balancing so that the incoming load will be balanced across the multiple servers, correct? Let's say if you take two servers, right, the incoming load will now be get distributed across the two servers so that one server will not feel more burden. That's the one solution that I have, correct? Let's say currently there are two servers which are participating in the business. The load is shareable. Still, let's say there are more users are accessing my website, right? If what is the case if even these two servers are not capable to handle this load, guys? Got me? Yesterday, I deployed a highly available solution by taking two EC2 instances in the target group, correct? What is the case if the two servers also not enough to handle the load if more users are accessing the website, correct? Yes, I can go with one more server, make it three servers, so that the incoming load will now be get distributed across the three servers. This is good, but when do you know that the current capacity is enough or not? You got me? This is not something that whenever the more users are actually accessing the website, when the current capacity is not enough, I cannot go and create a one more server and add it to the target group manually, correct? It has to be a auto scaling. That means it should take care of automatically identifying that, hey, there are more users are accessing my website, look like the current capacity is not enough, maybe the time to go and create a one more server. So AWS has to create a one other server automatically and add that server it into the business and start doing the load distribution to the new node as well. That way, this is a auto scaling solution to scale the computing resources horizontally, right? Whenever there is a more demand. This is called as a scale out operation. The scale out operation in the sense the AWS will ensure that it is scaling out the number of EC2 instances dynamically to meet the incoming business load base. Good. So in the same way, right, as you know, like whenever the more number of servers, definitely you should have a load balancer in place so that all these servers, right, are added to your load balancer as a target. Of course, through target group. I have not included the target group in the representation, right? So it will come to the load balancer, it will go to the target group, then it will start distributing it into your servers. All that will happen. Again, when the more number of servers are getting added, right, as part of the scale out operation, right, the billing will be more, right? Obviously. So what is the case tomorrow? The number of users accessing my website are very less. Do I need this many number of servers to serve a website, guys? Not really, right? So when the users are going down, automatically AWS will start terminating the server as well. You see this scenario. When the users are less, when it thinks that, hey, this many number of servers are not needed to handle the load, right? Then it automatically terminates the server as well to, right, align with the current on-demand requirements. You see, now it back to one server again. So terminating a servers and removing it from your load balancing is called as a scale in operation. That means we are expecting now a auto scaling solution which will take care of the scale out and scale in. to ensure that the right number of EC2 instances will be running for your business always, which will be meeting your business loads to avoid the performance issues. Yesterday, or maybe till the time, you might be having a question, right? How do I know that do I need to keep one server or two server or three servers in the target group? Correct. I think I got one question yesterday as well, that right, how many servers that we need to keep it in the target group. So technically we don't need to worry about how many servers that we need to keep it in the target group. You may get start with one server is also fine. Whenever there is a more load, it automatically scale to the number of required no, the instances, and the load will be distributed among them automatically, guys. Are we good with this? So this is called as a auto scaling concept, and we should always use auto scaling concept in association with the load balancer only. Why? If the auto scaling is creating more number of servers, right, there should be someone who can do the load distribution. So here the load balancer will take care of doing the load distribution to the servers that are getting created by the auto scaler for you, right? So you will not be increasing the load, as I see a question in the chat window, right? So as and when the users are accessing the website, if more people are accessing my website, more requests will come to my servers, more compute and memory required, and if one server is not handled, then it will try to create a one more server. That's how the flow will happen, right? Now, out of this whole story, theoretically, this is fine. I'm telling that AWS will take care of, right, whenever the more load is came, it will try to create a servers. But practically, how would AWS know that when the server has to be scale out, when the server has to be scale in, correct? Or how would AWS identify that, hey, there are more number of users accessing the website, the time for me to go and create a one more server? Or there are less number of people are accessing the website, maybe we don't need this many servers, let me go and terminate it. On what basis it takes the decision, correct? AWS cannot look into the number of users accessing the website, because that is something outside of the AWS control, correct? If 1 lakh people are accessing my website, how would AWS know that, correct? So AWS is not really caring about the number of users accessing the website. Rather, AWS will worry about the processor and memory consumption of your servers, correct? That is always a proportional. If more users, more utilization. Less users, less utilization, correct? That means as long as the memory and CPU is available in the server, you are good. I don't care about the number of users, right? If the memory and CPU is good enough to handle the load, that is good. So the memory and processor is something which is served by the AWS, right, as part of the infrastructure concept. So AWS will start monitoring the compute resources, like AWS will start monitoring the CPU utilization of your EC2 instances. Whenever the CPU utilization is going beyond the 80%, okay, look like the server is getting busy, the time to go and create a one more server, that is the trigger point. Right? If the AWS has to know, right, what is the exact CPU utilization of your server, the AWS has to depend on, or AWS will be using the services like a monitoring tools. So let me go and introduce you the monitoring related services in AWS case. So AWS has a one other service called CloudWatch, right? The CloudWatch is the service which is used to monitor the AWS cloud resources. The CloudWatch is not only monitoring the EC2 instance CPU utilization or memory utilization. The CloudWatch will monitor all the AWS resources. It will monitor your Route 53. It will monitor your EBS volume. It will monitor your EC2 instances. It will monitor your load balancer. It actually monitors all the AWS resources, whatever you are creating, and it will collect some of the information from that resources. Based on that, you can do whatever you want it to be. Like in our specific use case at this time, whenever the CPU utilization of a EC2 server is going beyond a 80 or 90%, whatever the threshold that you are trying to set, then it will take a necessary action for you, right? So like that, the CloudWatch can monitor a lot of different resources, guys. If you wanted to know the CloudWatch is monitoring which resources, you just go to the metrics tab here. Metric is the terminology in AWS which says that the actual configuration that it is trying to monitor. Let's say if the CloudWatch is monitoring the CPU utilization of a EC2 server, then the CPU utilization is called as a metric. If the CloudWatch is monitoring the memory utilization of a EC2 server, then the memory utilization is called as a metric. If the CloudWatch is monitoring the input and output networking packets, right, the number of packets that are coming and going from the EC2 server, then that network in and network out is called as a metric. Got me? So the metric is actually the the type of the resource that it has to collect the details from your specific resource, right? So I think if I go to this metrics tab, all metrics tab, you see here at high level, your CloudWatch is actually monitoring your EBS volumes, your load balancer, your EC2 server. You can see there are many as well. Route 53, NAT gateway, correct? So there are many, guys. At a high level, let's say if I go to NAT gateway, click on NAT gateway. You see that, right? Whenever the network is flowing through the NAT gateway, right? And you see here how many packets out to the source. Just click on this is the metric name. If you click on the metric name, it will show you the details here. You see here, and what is the metric name that I have selected, guys? Packets out to the source. How many number of packets that are out to the source, right? And you see the number of packets, right, and the time. So like that, we can see number of packets, sorry, peak packets per second. So it will tell you how many number of packets are there at a maximum peak, something like this, right? So don't worry about the each and every metric name and the purpose of the metric, guys, but I'm showing just to get the awareness of the CloudWatch what it is. So pretty much it has many metrics related to the NAT gateway. Whichever the metric that you are really interested on to understand the behavior of the NAT gateway, just go and select that metric name. It will show you the corresponding details in the graph. Then you take a call what needs to be done based on this information, guys. That's how the CloudWatch is helping you, guys, right? Let's say if I come back to other resource, if I come back to all metrics one more time, right? Let's say now I'll go to EC2, right? Per instance metrics, right? Now you see here under the EC2, you can see the EC2 instance ID for which instance that it is trying to collect the metric, and you can see the metric name here. In the metric name, you see that EBS write bytes, how many number of bytes of data is actually written to the EBS volume that is attached to the server. How many bytes of data is actually read from the EBS volume that is attached to the EC2 server. somewhere you can see how many total network in packets, how many total network out packets. Somewhere you can see CPU utilization. So if you select this, it will tell you the CPU utilization of this particular EC2 server. Maybe this server might have been terminated, so it's not showing anything. Let me search for our EC2 server, guys. This is the EC2 server ID, right? The thing is, though the server gets terminated, still the server related metrics will be showing here. That's the problem, right? So let me search for my EC2 server here. I can search my EC2 instance ID so that it will filter out only that particular EC2 server related metrics. If I select the server and you see now the details last 1 hour, right? Of course, you are not seeing the data before because the server is launched just now, right? So you can see from the time the server gets launched, it started off collecting the utilization of your EC2 instance CPU and it is showing in the graph, right? When the instance was launched, the utilization was around 2.8% and it came down and now it is almost zero because no one is using my EC2 server, right? So the CloudWatch is actually monitoring the AWS resources and it is showing the data in a graph. How you wanted to utilize this data, it's up to you now. There are multiple use cases with this. I'll talk about them, right? So when you are observing the utilization pattern of each and every metric, right, you can go with last 1 hour how it is, last 3 hours how it was performing, last 12 hours how it was performing, right? Basically, you can go till last 15 months as well. You see here. So it will tell you since last 15 months how the pattern was there. Why do I need to worry about how it was being utilized the last 15 months or last 3 months, last whatever it is, past dates, guys? Any clue? I think initially the day one when I deployed a EC2 server, right? I got a question that on what basis do we select the EC2 instance type, right? Who said that it will be a T2.micro? Why it is a T2.micro? Why can't be a others, correct? So definitely as of today, no one knows what will be the correct EC2 instance type, guys. Even if it is a auto scaling and it is scaling up, still you should tell which instance type that it has to scale, right? So no one knows what will be the ideal EC2 instance type. Always what will happen in the real time, right? So based on the experience of the engineer, they may assume that, okay, this instance type may be a good suit for this specific application. They will go with the T2.micro as an example, go with one processor, 1 GB memory, deploy, run the application, then come to the CloudWatch, see the utilization pattern. If it is crashing, usage is going for 100%, okay, look like the instance type is wrong. Let me increase the capacity. Let me increase the capacity again. So that's how we can do a trial and error and ensure that for which instance type it is actually behaving stable. Then you run with that instance type for long. Always you come back and visit the CloudWatch for last 3 months of data at least. See the behavior in the last 3 months, how the utilization pattern. It is always touching 90% usage or it is at 10% usage. Let's say if it is at a 10% usage, then you decide, okay, look like I given more capacity, it is just utilizing just 10%. You try to reduce the compute capacity, right, and save the billing. If it is always 90%, let's say, look like every time the server is busy, look like I need to increase the capacity to make a room for any upcoming peak of load. You got me what I'm trying to? That's how the CloudWatch will help us to analyze the utilization pattern. Based on that, you always need to take a call, guys. In the real time, usually the people will watch this CloudWatch every 1 month. Every month they will go and look at the pattern, how it is behaving last month. Then they take a call accordingly. They'll try to change the instance type, whatever is needed based on that. Good to know, right? So this is what is the CPU utilization metric that I'm currently focusing on, because I think CPU utilization is only the important metric that we should be worried about, guys. The remaining metrics are not so important, right? Let's say here you can see for your EC2 server, network packets, network out, and there are many, right? We don't really worry about any of the metric. Why? If the CPU utilization is going 100%, definitely your server will go down. It will be unresponsive. So it is important. The remaining are not so important as well. Good. So the CPU utilization, whatever you see from the AWS side, the same utilization, we can even watch it out from your EC2 server as well if you want to. So you can log into the server. But since you got the information from AWS level, right, we don't need to, we will not get the requirement to go to the server and run the command. We can get it from CloudWatch only, right? But if you want to run the commands on the server to get the CPU utilization, you can run the command called top, right? If you logged into the EC2 server, then you can run the command called top. The top command will tell you the CPU utilization here. Of course, the top command is not only showing the CPU, it will tell you the CPU, memory, and why the CPU is being utilized by this much. Like you see here, these are the top running processes in your server, and which process is actually taking more processor and more memory. This process is executed by which user, what is the process ID. You will get a lot of information in the top command to go in deep dive to see why my server CPU utilization is going up. Got me? Here you can see almost 0 because we are not really running anything. But yeah, if any application that is running more, you will get to know who is actually eating up the more capacity, right? So I think out of this whole data that you see in the top, you just need to worry about this ideal capacity, guys. Like how much CPU is currently ideal for you to use. If it is 100% ideal, like 0% is usage, right? That's how we need to look at through. Well, I think this is enough information at this time, right? So looking into the chart window, right? CPU memory utilization is not only just because of the user request. If you think in a broader way, CPU and memory is being utilized for everything. It could be a user request. It could be like if you're running the ls command, even your ls command also got consumed some amount of processor and memory to execute it. You got me what I'm trying to? Anything that is what it is happening, the CPU and memory is being consumed for that. Yeah. It includes your user request as well. Whoever is accessing my website from the browser, anything. But I think most of the times, since we get this CPU utilization from the CloudWatch, we are good enough here to look into the pattern and take a decision from here only, guys. Okay. So now what I'm trying to write, the reason why I came to the CloudWatch, I'm telling that the AWS has the CloudWatch service which is capable to monitor the CPU utilization of your EC2 instances. Based on this CPU utilization, it can take a decision. Whenever the usage is going beyond the 90%, okay, look like the server is busy, let me go and create a one more server. That is how it will talk to the auto scaling concept. Then the auto scaling will kick in and create a server for you. Now let me come back, guys. I'll show the implementation in a while. Let me come back one more time to this architecture. Right. So now, do you have an answer for these questions? How the AWS know that when it has to do the scale out? On what basis the AWS will be taking a decision when the scale out has to be done? That means when it has to create a one more server automatically, it is actually taking the help of CloudWatch metric, right? And how when it know that the scale in has to be happen, that means the server has to be terminated. Again, it take the help of the CloudWatch metric. So it will look for the CloudWatch metric, and it will take a decision when it has to do the scale in, right? And how it know that which EC2 server configuration has to be used to deploy the server? Got me? What I'm trying to. If you are creating the EC2 server manually, then you know what needs to be filled up, right? If I'm expecting the AWS has to create a server if the AWS has to create a server automatically when there is a need, how AWS know that, right? What will be the EC2 server configuration, like which AMI that it has to use, which key pair that it has to use, which subnet that it has to use. Got me? So it has to know all of this information, right? You need to tell that information. And more importantly, so when there is a scale in, that means when it is terminating the server automatically, when it feels that, hey, the server is not no more needed, do you think any data loss, guys, when the server gets terminated? Because when the server gets terminated, the server is pretty much gone. You can't get it back, right? Even the corresponding volumes that are attached to the EC2 server, even the volumes also will be get deleted, everything. But do you feel any data loss in this case? For example, just to make it more realistic, right? Here I have my EC2 server, which is currently installed and configured as a web server, right? So let's say if the server gets terminated, is there any data loss? May or may not be. I'm not saying no at this time, right? I'm not saying no, right? There may be a data loss or there is no data loss. It's up to how you are configuring the EC2 server, correct? If you are really keeping some important data in the EC2 server, then if the server gets terminated, definitely there is a data loss, correct? So what I'm trying to write, whenever you are expecting the auto scaling has to be implemented, whenever you are expecting the AWS has to create a server automatically and destroy the server automatically, you configure the server in such a way that there is no important data is kept in the server. It's your responsibility to ensure that you are not keeping any important data there. How you do that, it's up to you, and you utilize different various other uh, you know services. I'll talk about those things as well, how we can ensure that we are not keeping important data in the server. But for now, to call it out, it's our responsibility to ensure that we are not keeping any important data in the servers, especially if you are expecting the servers to be handled by the auto scaling concept. I know this is still a question mark for you guys at this time, right? What will happen to the data? The data loss is there or not? But don't worry about that. But for now, the statement that I'm trying to give here is, it's our responsibility to ensure that we are not keeping any important data in the server level if it is being controlled by the AWS auto scaling. How we do that will definitely take care of using the external databases that I'm going to introduce in upcoming lectures. For now, this is good enough. Good. I think there is one dependency that I need to cover up here, right? So whenever, right, the AWS CloudWatch is there to monitor the CPU utilization, that is fine. Tell me guys, when AWS has to go and do the scale out, when there is a trigger happen, that means what? Whenever the utilization is going beyond 70, beyond 80, beyond 90 or beyond 95, got me what I'm trying to? When it has to go, when the utilization is going beyond 70%, it has to go and create a server, or when the utilization is going beyond 80, it has to go and create a server, right? What is the threshold that it has to look for? Is it a fair question at this time? Correct, no? The CloudWatch is monitoring, but at which threshold level that it has to take a decision or action, basically, right? Of course, we will tell that because we know the requirement, right? If I tell to AWS that, hey, whenever the utilization is going beyond 80, please go and take care of the scaling. Whenever it is more than 90, go and take care of the scaling. So whatever the threshold that you are expecting to take care of for your business needs, you just tell to that. But how it know that when that threshold has got reached? That is where the AWS will take care of the alarm concept. You see the alarm tab here. So here you need to go and create a alarm saying that what is the threshold that you are expecting to take care of by the AWS to trigger the action. So let's say at high level, if I click on the create alarm, select the metric for which metric that you are expecting the alarm to be created. Let me search for my EC2 server. Let's say I want to create a alarm for CPU utilization, right? Select CPU utilization of your EC2 server. That is what I'm interested on. Now you see here, hey AWS, you please watch out for the CPU utilization of this particular EC2 server. Whenever average CPU utilization is more than, you can see the condition, right, is greater than 80%, you define the threshold here, right? Then whenever the usage is going beyond 80%, then the alarm will trigger, hey, something has happened, it is breaching the threshold limit, and you take action. That's what you need to configure here, guys. We have multiple options here. Sometimes you may be interested on greater than, sometimes you may be interested on lower than, right? Based on the requirement you can define there. Most likely for the CPU utilization, right, the greater than is most important threshold that you wanted to go with. Let's say if I say 80%, greater than 80%, whenever the CPU is greater than 80%, then it will go and take the action and take care of that, whatever the action that you have been said. Right. So here you can see the period, that means 5 minutes. That means at every 5 minutes, it will go and check for the utilization. Got me? There should be some interval, right? How frequently it has to look for the usage to see if the usage is beyond 80 or not. If it is 5 minutes, every 5 minutes it will go and check for the usage. Is it greater than 80 or not? Again, after 5 minutes, it will go and check. Again, after 5 minutes, go and check. Like that, every 5 minutes interval rate, it will check for the CPU utilization. Whenever the usage is beyond the threshold that what you defined, it will take the action. Are we good with this? I'm not creating any alarm for now. I'm just clicking cancel. I'm just telling that what is alarm and what is metric concept. I will create them along with my auto scaling. I know it's more of theoretical, but yeah, without understanding all these different dependencies, right, architecture, we can't get to know, we can't get into the implementation directly. Good. So I think we'll look into this presentation one more time, guys, to understand what is this auto scaling exactly. Now, just to recap some one of the statement. The reason why I came to the auto scaling concept is I wanted to have a auto scalable solution for my web application. That means whenever uh, the whenever the CPU utilization is going beyond the threshold limit, I'm expecting the servers to be created automatically to meet the incoming business load, and the servers has to be terminated whenever the utilization is very low. That's a simple thing, right? Mostly when the usage will go high, when more users are accessing, the usage will go high, right? That's a general strategy. So when I'm trying to implement this solution, right, you go with your AWS cloud, choose the region, obviously you deploy the VPC. Now the very first thing is you create a launch template, right? What is there in the launch template, guys? The launch template is the predefined configuration of the EC2 instance, how the instance has to be created. So in the launch template, you define which instance type that it has to, how much EBS volume size you want to, which AMI that it has to use, and the script that it has to run automatically when the instance gets launched as part of the user data, which IAM role that you wanted to, or right, which security group, which subnet, right? Basically, you define everything how you're expecting the server to be created and keep it in the launch template. Good. Then now you go and create a auto scaling group. Basically, the number of servers that the AWS is running to run your application will be grouped it into a auto scaling group. If you ask me what is auto scaling group, auto scaling group is the logical group that the AWS has created to keep all the number of servers that it created for running the application, right? So when you are defining the auto scaling group, you can always tell that, hey, the servers that you are trying to manage automatically, right? You keep them in the specific subnet. You tell which subnet that it has to create it for you. Mostly it will be a private subnet because I want all the servers to be in a private subnet. Definitely the subnets are actually associated with the availability zones, and you better take the subnets off to different availability zones. That way the servers will be distributed across multiple zones to avoid the zone level of failures. Now you tell to your auto scaling group that, hey, you do please maintain at least minimum 2 servers. Following me, guys? Let's say there are 0 servers. Sorry. Let's say there are 0 users. No one is accessing my website. Do you think you need to, do you think, uh, uh, I mean to say, when no one is accessing my website, but still at least I should run with a minimum number of servers, right? Getting me? So as a best practice, you tell to auto scaling group that, because auto scaling is trying to remove the servers whenever no one is using or whenever the usage is low, right? That's the reason I tell that, hey, you please maintain at least 2 servers always, no matter whether the utilization is up or down. You do maintain minimum 2 servers all the cases. Then whenever the usage is more people are accessing, more compute is needed, you please increase the number of servers, but you do increase the servers till the max only. You can define the maximum limitation as well here, saying that in this case 6, right? That means you always maintain 2 servers no matter whether the users are there or not. If the users are increasing, if you need more compute, you please increase from 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6. You just start adding the servers, but not beyond the 6 or not beyond the max value. The max value is again up to you guys. If you say 6, the auto scaling will take care of creating the servers till 6 only. If you say 10, it will create up to 10 only. you decide what will be the max that you wanted to, because that will add up the billing, right? I can't go and tell 20 servers just like that, right? And if it is creating 20 servers, you'll get more bill. You maybe needed that many number of servers, but sometimes, though there are people are accessing my website due to billing constraint, no, I don't want to run with this many number of servers, right? So define the max value there. If you are curious in the real time, most likely, right, the minimum will be 2, the maximum will be 5 or 6. At worst case, it will be 8 or 9, but definitely it will be less than 10 only, right? Definitely it will be less than 10 only in the real time too. The decide is the concept that the AWS will decide. That means you are telling that, hey, you please maintain 2 servers always. If need be, you go with till 6 servers. How many servers that it need, correct? That is configured as a desired value. Initially, when you set this up, the minimum value will become the desired value. Then the AWS will start creating 2 servers for you as per the minimum. Whenever you set up the auto scaling group, initially it will try to bring up the EC2 servers automatically to meet the minimum count. So the minimum number will become the desired number, and your auto scaling group will be get created with the 2 servers, which is like minimum number at this time. One other point, as much as possible, auto scaling group will try to rebalance the servers evenly across all the zones. Let's say if you are keeping 1A and 1B zones, it will, let's say there are 2 servers. It try to create one server in 1A zone, the other server in 1B zone. That's how it will try to balance the number of nodes across the zone space as much as possible. Like it will not create 2 servers in 1A zone only. No, it will try to make it distributed across the zones. That's the default AWS. Now you tell the scaling policy, correct? How it has to do the scale out and how it has to do the scaling. You tell that, hey, AWS, whenever the CPU utilization is more than 80%, please do the scale out. Let's say whenever the usage is less than 80%, you please do the scale in. That's how you tell the threshold based on your CloudWatch alarm, right? The AWS is already monitoring your CPU using the CloudWatch metric, and you define the CloudWatch alarm saying 80% is my cutoff. Then the AWS will start looking for the CPU utilization of your server based on the interval that you define, 1 minute or 5 minutes, whatever. Whenever it sees that the alarm has actually triggered when the usage is more than 80%, whenever AWS identify that, hey, the usage is more than 80%, alarm is already popping out, then the alarm will go and inform to auto scaling group, hey, auto scaling group, I got alarm for this more than 80% threshold, you take care of. Now auto scaling will see this alarm. Okay, let me go and do the scale out. So auto scaling will go and update the desired count from 2 to 3. Then it will try to create one more EC2 server from the launch template. It will get the details from the launch template to know how the server has to be created. Then it creates a server for you. At this time, take a pause and a question for you. When the server is getting created automatically by the auto scaling group, do you need to logging into the server to configure something to make the server fully ready to serve the website? No, right? Why? You already kept all the required steps in the user data in the launch template itself. So when it is creating a server for you, right, it configure the commands as well. So your server is fully ready. You don't need to log in to do anything. The moment when the server is created, that's it. The web server is started, the code is deployed, It's ready to serve the content on port number 80. After some time, because it is keep on monitoring the usage, right? After some time, let's say even after adding one more server, now it is running with the total 3 servers, right? Let's say still the usage is 80%. After some time, again the alarm is triggering saying that, hey, the total usage is still more than 80%. Auto scaling will update the desired count from 3 to 4. Then it will try to create a one more instance with the help of the launch template, and that instance will come to the different zone because it has to equally distribute the servers across the availability zones. The things will repeat now. After some time, if the usage is still more than 80, again the desired will change from 4 to 5. A server will be created. After some time, still the usage is more people are accessing my website. Let's say the desired will change from 5 to 6. One more server will be get created. Let's say still the usage is high, still people are accessing, right? The alarm is triggered. It cannot create a seventh server now because you said the max is 6 only. If you really get into the situation like the 6 servers are running, right, and still the capacity is not enough, right, then you go and update the max value to 10. If you really get into this situation where you are expecting it to scale more, but it just follow your max value, guys. It cannot create more than the max what you have been defined, and max is something editable that you can edit always whenever you want to. Let's say after some time the users are keep on coming and going, right, to access the website. If the number of users accessing my website are less, after some time, let's say the usage is less than 80%, then AWS understands that, okay, look like the usage is gone down, we don't need this many servers. The desired number will change from 6 to 5, and one server will be get terminated. Just to add a statement here, because the server is getting created and destroyed automatically by the AWS as part of the auto scaling solution, it's your responsibility to tell to AWS using the launch template how the server has to be created, how the server has to be configured automatically using the user data script. When the server gets terminated, it's your responsibility to ensure that you are not actually keeping any important data in the server because the data will be gone if at all the data was there. We'll see how to not to store the data in the EC2 server, what kind of the data may need to in upcoming lectures. Because for now, this is a simple web server, right? It does not have any data, right? When it comes to the real time, there will be some data. For example, yeah, as I see in the chat window, right? If the website is like a youtube.com, you go and upload a video. Where that video will go? That video will come to your server, right? If you are keeping that video in a server, if the server gets terminated, there is a data loss, right? We'll talk about those scenarios, how to keep, how to not to keep the data in the server, we'll keep it somewhere else. But for now, yes, the rule is don't keep any data on the server itself because your data may loss if the server gets terminated just because of the auto scaling solution. It will repeat, guys. Like after some time, if the usage is still low, the desired will change from 4. One server will be terminated, again from 4 to 3, again from 3 to 2. That's it. It can't terminate one more server because you said minimum is 2, right? And it will keep continue running with that 2 number of servers for you. That is how auto scaling will help us to scale out, scale in, and that's how we can avoid the performance issues when the users are more. Well, team. I know there will be a lot of questions around this concept because we are still discussing some workarounds. The problem is the reason why I'm not going for the implementation, right? The moment when I go for the implementation, right, to the auto scaling, it could be auto scaling or load balancer, whatever it is. Like creating it is very easy. Like I'll just go to create auto scaling group and there is a form here. I'll just fill up the form, right? When I'm filling up this form, we should know the concept, right? Without knowing the concept, we can't go and fill up the form just like that. So that's the reason I'm explaining every aspect before I get into the practical. Now, the time for looking into the chat window again. I just see a question there, right? Tell me guys one thing. Now in this architecture, I have total 6 servers. Let me put it way. Let's say there are 6 servers. Is there anything like the original server or the additional added server? Is there any difference guys between the first server or the second server to the 6th server? Definitely no, right? All the 6 servers are equally identically configured to serve the same website. Sorry, I think this is the slide, right? All the 6 servers are equally configured. No matter whether it is terminating the first server or the last server, it will be the same. Because all of them are actually created from the same launch template, configured with the same application, same code, same website, no difference. But when AWS is trying to terminate a server, it has its own rules. The billing will happen on hourly basis, right? So it will look for that actually. Whichever the server is close to the billing, it will try to terminate the server. You got me? Let's say one server that is just got created 5 minutes back. There is a server which was running since last 55 minutes. Out of these two, what will be the best pick to terminate a server? Maybe the server which is running since last 55 minutes, right? Maybe that is the best pick because that is almost close to the billing, like a hourly billing concept, right? So that's how AWS has some calculation on what basis the server has to be terminated. But for us, it doesn't matter. It can delete any server, it's just identical servers for me. No differences. Now I have another slide, guys. I'll talk about this and we'll do the implementation in the next lecture. I'm just trying to put all of our concepts, what we discussed today, in one single slide again with some other extra information. You see here, whenever the user wanted to access a website, right? Now what I'm trying to do, I'll go and create a VPC in my AWS cloud. I'll create a launch template first. I'll define all the EC2 configuration details in the launch template, including the user data to configure my server fully ready to serve the website. Then I will go and create a auto scaling group. Then I'll define the minimum number of servers that it has to run and the maximum number of servers that it has to do the scale. Now let me take a pause and ask you the question now. Can I keep the minimum as 1? Obviously yes, right? If the question is can I, yes, obviously yes. But is it a best practice? Maybe not, right? Running with one server is not a best practice, but it is possible. Now a question for you again, can I keep the minimum as 0? You can, what's matter? If you say minimum is 0, the moment when you create auto scaling group, right? It will not create any server. If the question is, can I keep the 0 or not? Yes, we can keep. Only thing is, it will not create a server for you because you said minimum is 0. But the auto scaling will accept minimum as 0. Even I can create auto scaling group saying that the minimum is 0, maximum is 0. I can tell that, no issue, right? I can tell that minimum is 0, maximum is 0, no problem. It will just not create any servers for you, but the auto scaling configuration is created. You may be having a question now, why 0 is needed there. Let's say today I want to set up the auto scaling, but I don't want to run the servers today only because my business will run from tomorrow or day after tomorrow. You got me what I'm trying to? Why should I run the server start from today only? Why should I, paying the bill start from today only? Got me? I'm preparing my setup, everything to be ready for tomorrow or day after tomorrow. You make everything ready, keep the minimum at 0. Whenever you are really expecting the servers to come up, then you go and update the minimum as 1 or 2 or whatever it is. Is it make sense, guys? Right? So that's the reason. Yes, it is possible to keep the minimum at 0 as well. It has its own use cases why it has to be. There are customers who are actually updating the auto scaling group to minimum 0, maximum 0 at Friday evening, and updating the minimum to 1 or 2 or whatever at Monday morning, because over the weekend, let's say this server is not being used for any reason, so we can avoid the billing there. Make sense? There are use cases like that as well, and I don't need to do anything, right? At Monday morning, you just make your minimum as 1. The launch template is there, which will do a fully configured website for you, or whatever the application that you have. You don't need to log in and do anything, right? It takes care of. That's how there are different use cases, guys, right? How we can use this min configuration there. Good. Now I'll just go and set up the auto scaling, saying that, hey, can you bring up the servers on 1A and 1B zones, right? Then you set up the scaling policies, saying that, hey, this is the uh, threshold to do the scale out and the threshold for scaling. Specify the interval. Now the fun part starts. Auto scaling is responsible only to create a server and destroy the server based on the metric that it sees there. But the number of servers when it is getting added or getting deleted, how would the user's request will be distributed across the number of servers, right? That is where you come to the load balancing concept now. I'm just trying to connect auto scaling and the load balancer together. You create a public subnet. In the public subnet, you create a load balancer, right? Then you attach your load balancer to your auto scaling group. I mean, it is your target group is in a way, right? Correct. So you create a target group and you attach the target group to the auto scaling group. At this time, do I have any server guys with me? I don't have any servers as of today, right? I'm just preparing everything. If you closely monitor, right, yesterday when I was setting up the target group, I manually created a EC2 servers, then I added the EC2 servers into the target group, then I prepared my target group. But now the things are different. The target group will be a empty target group. I'm not putting any servers to that. I will just attach the target group to the auto scaling group. That way, whenever AWS auto scaling is updating the desired count and creating the servers, the moment when the new servers are appearing in the auto scaling group, those servers will automatically get added as a target to the target groups. The moment when the servers are appeared in the target group, your load balancer will automatically start distributing it to that particular target group, and the request will be sent to that particular EC2 instances. Are we good with this? So tomorrow, when the CPU utilization is more than the threshold and there is a scale out alarm is triggered, the auto scaling is responsible to update the desired count from 2 to 3 and create a one more server from the launch template that you defined. The moment when the server is appeared in the auto scaling group, the server will be identified and will be added to the target group. The moment when the server is coming into the target group, the load balancer will start distributing the load to that particular server as well. Now it's fully automated. The end user, whoever is accessing the website, right, that request is always coming to load balancer. Now the load balancer will start distributing to the number of servers who are actually managing by the auto scaling group. You are not creating any of the EC2 servers manually. So now, right, whenever the desired count is changing, the moment when a new server gets added, the server will appear in the target group, the load will come to that server. That's how it works. Whenever there is a scale in, let's say we don't need this many number of servers. If auto scaling actually terminating a server, automatically that server will be get removed from the target group. Obviously, that server will not get the request. That is how the servers will get removed from your target group as well. 2 is minimum. It always run with 2 servers. The 2 servers will come in the target group, and these 2 always will be serving the traffic for you guys. That's how auto scaling will now work with in association with your load balancing concept. And this is the whole architecture to give you highly available, scalable, distributed application for your end user. Why are we doing all of these, guys? Because I wanted to have a website to be available to my end user where I don't want to give any downtime to my website. It should run always, no matter what is happening. That's why we are improving my architecture further. Again, I think I'm done for the today, guys. A lot of brainstorming concepts that we talked about, right? We'll do this whole implementation steps right from next session. I think we already know a lot of things. I just need to go and create these bit and pieces and put together, right? That's it. Even we know how to create a launch template as well. We'll do that. Now, how do we know the minimum and the maximum that we need to define? Who said that the maximum will be 6 only? Obviously, same thing. No one knows that actually. Today, you keep it as 6 and you run the application, you monitor it, you observe it. If you get into the situation where it is actually going to the 6 servers and still it is struggling to get more, if you see that behavior, you try to increase it to 10. Like basically based on the experience, based on the expectation of the number of users may come, you need to assume the value. If I go very deeper and deeper, right, the management team will have the metrics, like they know actually how many number of users will access my website. They have some values, case, right? Let's say last month how many people accessed my website, and based on that value they will estimate, okay, this month this many number of users may access my website. They have some estimations, they have some calculations. Based on that, they will try to see if this value will match up there or not. You got what I'm trying to? It's like outside of the technical, right? Outside of the technical, if I ask you, let's say you have a shop. If you have a shop, anyone can come and buy the product, right? We can't control that, but always you will be having some estimated number right? This many number of people may come and purchase this product today on daily basis, correct? Based on the experience, based on the business behavior, you know something, and accordingly we'll try to maintain the stock as well, right? Just to come out from the technical and talk about this thing, right? Same thing will happen here as well. The business people will know some estimation, right? How many people will be accessing, what will be the traffic uh, increasing rate on day-to-day basis. They do all these calculations behind the screen. That's what these managers are all doing. Okay. Now I see a question there, right? I'm putting the auto scaling for my EC2 instances where exactly my business is running, my application is running. Do I need a auto scaling for my load balancer? Yes, definitely. I can't work with one single load balancer. Let's say if there are more number of users are coming in, all the users traffic is actually coming through this single load balancer, right? Do you think this load balancer is capable to handle that whole traffic? You see this scenario now? It's the right question. If more users are coming in, you are increasing the number of servers, that is good. But all the traffic is coming through a single load balancer. Do you think your load balancer is capable to handle the load? But the answer is load balancer is the managed solution in the sense load balancer is actually handled by the AWS automatically for you in the sense AWS will take care of doing the auto scale of a load balancer for you. You don't need to worry about this. But definitely, yes, the load balancer has to be scaled. Yes, that scaling will handled by the AWS. So what AWS says, hey, you don't worry about my load balancer. Whatever the number of users are coming in, I'll take care of scaling it in backend. How they do, what is the technology that they do, how they're doing behind the screen, we don't need to worry, but that is what AWS is confirming. I take care of load balancer scalability, right? We don't need to worry how that is being done. I'll ensure that you are not getting any performance issues if the more traffic is there. You only take care of your EC2 instance level scaling. That's the agreement. So any questions around this concept, do let me know, guys. But if any questions, I think all those will be get clarified when I get into the implementation part. But definitely without discussing this whole architecture, we can't get into the implementation at day one. That's the reason I'm spending some time here, guys. Any questions, do let me know. No questions? Well, team, if no questions, we are good for today. But yeah, we'll come back in the next lecture to do this implementation part.